Welcome back to our fifth episode of The Road to Success. We are very thankful to have Kim Blanchard on the show. Dr. Kim Blanchard is the co-founder and chief spiritual officer of the Kim Blanchard Companies, an international management training and consulting firm that he and his wife, Margie Blanchard, began in 1979. Kim's impact as an author is far-reaching. His iconic 1982 classic, The 1 Minute Manager, co-authored with Spencer Johnson, has sold more than 13 million copies and remains on bestseller lists today. In the past 3 decades, he has authored or co-authored 60 books whose combined sales total more than 31 million copies. In 2005, Kim was inducted into Amazon's Hall of Fame as one of the top 25 best-selling authors of all time. Dr. Blanchard, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show.
Well, it's my pleasure, Matthew. It's great to be with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, Mr. Blanchard, I understand that you were a university professor at one point. What prompted you to leave academia to start your business?
Well, I tell you, I came out in sabbatical leave on a 1-year sabbatical leave from University of Massachusetts to California, San Diego, to write a third edition of a textbook I wrote with Paul Hersey. And I ran into a group called the Young Presidents Organization, YPO. Have you ever heard of them? That you have to become president of your company before you're 40 years old and have at least 50 people working for you and 5 million in sales. And they're all over the world. And I did some sessions for them, and they kind of adopted me. They said, "What are you going to do at the end of the year?" We said, "We're going back to the university." They said, "No, you're not." What do you mean? He said, "You're going to start your own company." My wife and I said, "We can't even balance our own checkbook. How are we going to do that?" They said, "We'll help you." And we had 5 YPO presidents become our advisory board. One from Oregon, one from San Diego, one from Mexico City, one from Pennsylvania, one from Illinois, flew out here, helped us start our company. So we ended up becoming entrepreneurs because we ran into this wonderful group of entrepreneurs and said we needed to start our own company.
Wow, that's fascinating. So what were some of the most challenging moments in getting your business off the ground, and how did you deal with those moments?
Well, the most challenging moments was that my wife, Margie, and I, we both had PhDs and all that kind of stuff, but we had never run a company. And so our challenge was, how are we going to get the thing going? With the help of these 5 presidents, we did. And I was smart enough to make Margie president because she was much better at that kind of thing. And I became kind of the head cheerleader in the whole company. But we needed to find somebody who kind of knew how to run a business. We eventually, Margie talked her brother Tom into joining us. He was born when she was a freshman at Cornell, so he's 18 years younger, but he was an entrepreneur and he was running restaurants, and so he came out to join us to help us get the thing going. And then our son Scott joined us, and then our daughter Debbie joined us, and so it's a really family business.
That's awesome. So you are known for your books on leadership. What do you think are some of the most important leadership characteristics or traits for success?
Well, I think the biggest success for a leader is to realize that leadership isn't about you, it's about the people you're leading. And I'm a big fan of servant leadership. And C.S. Lewis years ago said that the key to serving is to be humbled. And he said that people with humility don't think less of themselves, they just think about themselves less. And so I think that's really important, is to realize that it's not about you. I think it's important to learn how to listen. I think if God wanted us to talk more than listen, he would have given us 2 mouths, but he gave us 2 ears. But a lot of people spend more time talking than they do listening. And I think great leaders are listeners because they're trying to bring out the best in their people, and they realize that they're to serve, to be served. I have found that the great companies I've known and the great leaders realize that their number one customer is their people. And if they take care of their people, train their people, love on their people, they will go out of their way to take care of the number 2 most important customer, which is the people who buy your products and services. And then they're going to become raving fans of you and become part of your sales force. And that takes care of the bottom line and the profit and all. A lot of people think that the reason for being in business is to make money. No, profit is the applause you get for creating a motivating environment for your people so that take good care of your customers.
That's excellent advice.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, what is the best advice you have ever received?
Well, my dad was quite a guy. He retired as an admiral in the Navy, and I'll never forget, I grew up in New Rochelle, right outside of New York City, and I won the president of the 7th grade, and I was all pumped up, and I came home and told my father, and he said, well, congratulations, Ken. Now you're president, we can begin your leadership training, because now that you're president, don't ever use your position. He said, great leaders are great because people trust and respect them, not because they have power. He said, it's a myth in the military that it's all my way or the highway. He said, sure, in battle, somebody's got to call the shots. But if you act like a big deal with your men, they'll shoot you before the enemy. So you need to build respect and trust. It's not about your power. It's about your people.
So what motivates you the most about running a business?
Well, it's just fun to see people that are really excited, first of all, to work with you. This is a tough time, as you know, with COVID, so we've had to downsize a fair amount, and we're a little about 40% off of our expected revenue this year. But our son took over as president in January. He said, "Thanks a lot, Dad, for giving me the reins at this time." But it's wonderful to see people pull together. And then the other thing that's, of course, really exciting is to see the impact that you can have on your customers, because we're in the leadership training business. And when people can realize that they can really learn to be a leader, it's not just something you end up doing. It's really exciting to see that, glow in their eyes when they get that they can really learn and be a better leader.
Definitely. So, do you have any advice for others that maybe have a business idea but are too afraid to pursue it because of the risk?
Well, I think that what you need to do then is to find some people that will join you. I think the big problem is for people think they got to do it all by themselves. One of my favorite sayings is that no one of us is as smart as all of us. And if you get other people involved, it really helps you. And so the fact that I've been able to have a great working partner with my wife and then with the rest of the family has been really important. So I know it sometimes seems risky to start your own company. So don't do it alone. Find one or two other people that would join you in that, so that together you can figure it out, so that it'll work out with more of you.
It's very good advice.
Yeah.
So what are some of the mistakes you wish you could have avoided when starting as an entrepreneur?
I'm trying to think of any. We didn't really make any mistakes. I'm just trying to think. Well, we did make one mistake. We brought in a guy to kind of run our company because he knew more about business than we did early on. And what we found out is that he didn't care about our people the way we did. And so we had to deal with him and eventually get rid of him. And we made that mistake twice, to bring in the wrong leader. And so I would think that's the biggest mistake, is finding out who can be your teammates and get the right people. And finally, we decided that the best teammates are our own family.
Yeah, that's very true. So what networking helped you the most when you were first getting started? I know you mentioned the YPO, but was there anything else?
That's a big thing. But then I have some real good buddies from Cornell. I went to Cornell, and there's 10 guys that we've kept in close contact with, and we play golf together every year, and we support each other. And the big thing that they've done is to keep my ego under control. I'll never forget, we were skiing one time in Aspen, Colorado, and we skied out to this restaurant out a ways, and when we sat down for lunch, the waiter came over and said, "We understand the author of the 1 Minute Manager is in your party. Could we get his autograph?" And almost in unison, they all started yelling, "You want his autograph? You got to be kidding me. What was his average at Cornell? Like 70.00, He can't give you any advice, So my wife gave me the elbow and says, keeps you in perspective. And so you need you need people to keep you in perspective.
That's
That's very
hilarious.
true.
So, you have written many best-selling books. How do you get ideas for your books, and what motivates you to write?
Well, my books come very often by synergy. You know, life is what happens to you when you're planning on doing something else. Like the 1 Minute Manager, uh, I was invited to a party by a woman by the name of Adelaide Bray, who wrote a book called Visualizations, Directing the Movies of Your Mind. She was the first one to teach people how to self-cure themselves of cancer. And she decided to have a party for authors in town. And I had this textbook, so I got to go. And so we're at the party, and my wife Margie met Spencer Johnson, and he wrote children's books. He wrote a whole series called Value Tales: The Value of Courage, the story of Jackie Robinson; The Value of Honesty, the story of Abe Lincoln; The Value of Determination, the story of Helen Keller. So Margie hand carried him over to me and said, "You two ought to write a book for managers, a children's book, because they won't read anything else." And so Spencer was working on a 1-minute apology with a psychiatrist on how to discipline kids, and I invited him to a seminar I was doing, and he sat in the back and laughed, and at the end he came running up and said, "Forget parenting, let's do the 1-Minute Manager." And since he was a children's book writer and I'm a storyteller, we decided to write a parable, and that was the 1-Minute Manager. And we self-published it initially and sold 20,000 copies, through the Young Presidents Organization before we went to New York. But it is. And other times I've come up with an idea. For example, I got to know the founder of Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy, and I thought their family is one of the most generous families I've ever met. And I went to Truett about writing a book on generosity, which we did together, called The Generosity Factor. Then somebody called me one time with Don Shula, the great Miami Dolphins football coach. He was going to get to retire, and this fellow said, "Don, you ought to write a book on your coaching philosophy." And he said, "I wouldn't even know where to begin." And I had met this guy, Charlie Morgan, who was Shula's lawyer. And he said, "Well, I know somebody who could write it with you." And he calls me. He said, "Ken, would you be willing to write a book with Don Shula?" I said, "I'd just like to meet Don Shula, much like write a book with him." So they've come from different places and all. But my mother always said, "Why don't you write a book by yourself?" And I said, "I already know what I've known, but of all my books, over 60, I've only written 2 by myself. One on golf. So many people helped my golf game, I didn't know who to write it with. And the second one was my spiritual journey. I didn't know who to write that with. But the rest have all been co-authored because I love to learn and write with other people. It really makes it fun.
That's
It's
very
an incredible
cool, yeah.
story.
Are there any other keys to success or advice that you would like to share?
Well, I think the big keys to success is to keep your head up and don't put your head down and grind your teeth. Keep your head up, because you never know what new ideas might come your way or new opportunities. If you get so into what you're doing, you might miss those. So always look for opportunities that might be coming your way, and don't be afraid to ask for help. The worst thing somebody can do when you ask them for help is they can say no, and all they're doing is turning down your proposition. They're not turning you down. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Nobody can make you feel inferior without your permission." So keep believing in yourself and look for opportunities.
It's great advice.
That is wonderful, yeah.
So where can our audience connect with you online? I know you have a lot of followers on LinkedIn. Is that the best place, or is it something else?
LinkedIn's fine, but they can go to kenblanchard.com. And I also have a ministry that Matthew's mom and dad have been involved in for years called Lead Like Jesus, because after the 1-Minute Manager came out, I was asked to be on the Hour of Power with Robert Shula in his heyday. And he said, "Ken, who's the greatest 1-Minute Manager of all time?" I said, "Who's that?" He said, "Jesus." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, he was really clear on goals. Isn't that your first secret 1-minute goal setting?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You and Tom Peters didn't invent management by wandering around. Jesus did. He wandered from one little village to another little village. If anybody showed an interest, he'd praise them, heal them. Isn't that your second secret, 1 minute praising? Yeah. And he said if people stepped out of line, he wasn't afraid to give them a 1 minute reprimand. He threw the moneylenders out of the temple. Isn't that your third secret, the 1 minute reprimand? Yeah. He said he's the greatest leader of all time. And so then I started to go and read the Gospels and just laugh, because everything I had ever taught about leadership, Jesus did with these 12 incompetent guys he hired. You wouldn't have hired that lot. And so we end up starting to lead like Jesus ministry, which is all over the world now, not trying to convert people, but trying to convince people that Jesus was the greatest leadership role model of all time. And we should model his whole approach of love and being there for people.
That's
but lead
wonderful.
like Jesus, go to leadlikejesus.com if you're interested in that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. I know this will be very valuable to our viewers, and we really, really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
This has been
Matthew,
incredible.
it's good to be with you both. And did you know that I knew Matthew before he was born? So it's great to be with you, Matthew, and see you come along so great. And you got a great partner there. So good luck with your shows, and bless you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.